today I had a new friend on Discord ask me a question, and when they were asking the question, they told me, "Oh, it feels so bad to ask questions." And you know what? I'm making this video today because I completely agree. There was a long period of time where I felt very uncomfortable asking questions, but ultimately, I think the ability to ask questions always has ended up being good for me, and because this is kind of a common problem people find themselves in. I wanted to dedicate a bit of time talking about why it feels kind of bad to ask questions, and how to think about asking questions in general. Okay, so when do we ask questions? We ask questions when we don't know. Because if we knew, then there would be no reason to ask. So, the fundamental understanding is we ask simply because we don't know, but we feel bad. Why? Because based on how we have defined it, we ask because we don't know, but we feel bad when asking. Logically put together, that means we feel bad about not knowing. So, is that legitimate? When we don't know something, should we feel bad about it? I think that if you can confidently answer that, and if you can confidently have an answer that feels consistent for you, then I think this particular topic doesn't really have that much weight in your life. On one hand, you understand not knowing isn't really a flaw in you, right? So, for example, you might be thinking, I'm 18, but I still sort of suck at multiplying things, like multiplication table. I need to spend time thinking about what 7 times 6 is. I need to spend time thinking about what, 9 times 8 is. So, that stuff you learn in elementary school, but I'm 18. Shouldn't I know that stuff, right? So, based on the criteria, based on the school curriculum of wherever you are, if you don't know, then factually you have fallen behind on the curriculum, right? But life isn't just about the factual experiences. You might not have access to that knowledge because, who knows, in the education system you were in, you weren't prioritized because you were from a lower income neighborhood. Or your scores were not that important to your family because there was another family member who got all the attention and you were just kind of set aside. These things don't really get reflected in our day-to-day life, but nevertheless, it has a very big impact on how we carry on our lives, right? So, factually speaking, you could be behind, and factually speaking, you should maybe be knowing some things based on the factual criteria. But what I'm saying is, life isn't just lived by those standards. I'm saying, the Buddhism, kind of the middle way, right? On one end, no, we have to live by factual things. Or the other way, no, we have to only live by, our experiences. What I'm saying is, take the middle way. You may be behind in the factual world, but that doesn't mean that you are a lacking person. You may be lacking because of, your reasons, but that doesn't mean that you are objectively and unequivocally, indisputably a failure of a human being, right? So, not knowing is just not knowing. People can say you should know this, but that doesn't mean that you should. Even the factual standard of you should know this by a certain age, it was developed by a bunch of people. When you are born, there was forget you. 3,000 years ago, when people were born, people were fine not knowing these things, right? And the whole point of our existence isn't to know a bunch of stuff. It's okay to learn as we go. So what I'm saying is, not knowing is the default state to be. Knowing is the state that we strive for, right? And we get there by questions. So, in order to sustain our lives, we have to eat. But in order to eat, we need to eat spoon by spoon. We can't just look at this massive pork chop and then decide we're done eating, and then the pork chop doesn't teleport into our guts, right? We have to chop it off, we have to chew it, we have to swallow it, it has to be digested, it has to be pooped out. So basically, that whole ordeal is what constitutes the act of eating. So what I am saying is, asking questions so that you can get the necessary information is what's required in the whole process of learning. Now, depending on the state of your life, you may be at the stage where the people around you or other resources cannot supply you with the answers. These are questions like, what should I do with my life? Nobody can answer that for you because that's up to your contemplation, right? But again, that requires you to ask yourself. But if you feel bad about asking because you feel like you should know about yourself, I'm saying that's not really acting in your advantage. The default state is not knowing. And there is no shame in not knowing. But at the same time, you have to understand that people are free to cast whatever judgments they want on you. I could preemptively decide that every person who's watching this video is a great person with no moral flaws. Doesn't make it absolutely true, right? I know there's people with records. I know there's people in, the justice system reading my books and then, watching my videos. So I know for a fact that it's not. But so basically, what I'm saying is, when you ask, some people can think you're an idiot. But you're not, as long as you decide you're not. So when it comes to all these types of self-image things, because you don't know whether this is socially appropriate or not, you're not that bad of a person. You're not that inappropriate. You're not that horrible, right? The worse and worse you feel about yourself, the more work you need to do to kind of take yourself as a neutral human being like the rest of the people. And the higher of a self-esteem you have, the more you need to kind of recognize that you're not all that special. That's, again, in this realm of the middle way, right? But in summary, not knowing is not a sin. It's the default state to be. Asking questions is part of the process of knowing. Embrace it, but at the same time, expect people to have reactions on your questions. But that does not mean anything of substance about your personal character, because you are the only person who is in charge of your personal character.